In 1968, I was a school teacher in the territory of Guam, out riding on Japanese trails that they had made during World War II. And we came upon these 7 or 8 Marines standing around, doing what Marines do, standing around. So we stopped, and this captain came over, and he said to me, we're on a rescue mission. We're going to try to find a guy who went over some falls here. Our helicopter had to refuel. It's going to come back. I said, well, great, good luck. I said, which falls are you going to? And he said, there's more than one? I said, yeah, there's one this way on the stream, which is Tarzan Falls, and one this way, which is Sequa Falls. And he said, we didn't know that. And I said, well, what do you know about the falls? And he said, well, we're going to this one. I said, but what fall? He said, well, we know the guy was up on top of the cliff, tried to walk across the small stream. It's like ice. Over he went. He fell about 60 feet into the water, and he's unconscious. I said, you're going to the wrong fall then, because the 60-foot drop would be up here at Sequa Falls. He said, are you sure? I said, well, I've been there. And he said, well, a man's life depends on what you're saying. And I said, well, what do you want me to tell you? About that time, the helicopter comes back, and it lands, and they all jump on it, and I'm standing there, and this captain, he's telling me to get on the helicopter. Well, okay, I got on the helicopter, and he stood me up there. It was a Huey helicopter. Those of you might know that. We stood in the doorway, and all I could see were the pilot's feet. He put a helmet on me with a microphone. He put a helmet on. He said, tell him where to go. Well, right away, I knew I was in a Marine-operated helicopter, because I said to the guy, go to the stream and go upstream. And I hear from one of the feet, which way is upstream? Well, the ocean is over here, and the mountain is over here. And about that time, this Marine captain started swearing at the guy. Anyway, we took off. We go upstream. Sure enough, we find the right fall, because we can look down through the jungle, and we see these people waving. So they lower a Stokes basket, which is like a cot or a thing that you put people on who are injured. But they don't have enough rope, actually it's a cable, to get down through the top of the forest all the way down to the bottom of the where the injured man is. So the captain says, well, we got to go down and get him. We don't have enough line to pick him up. So they went out and they hovered over the ground. The helicopter didn't land, and he said, okay, everybody out. So I said, okay. I looked, and there's the grass right there. Well, what I didn't realize was that was elephant grass, and we were really about 8-10 feet off of the ground. So I stepped out, boom, right into this hole. Luckily, I was a follower of an Air Force doctor named Dr. Cooper, who actually was the inventor of aerobics conditioning, and I was in good condition, and I was fine. Now we had to work our way down to the falls. There was no steps. This was not a tourist attraction. There was nothing to help you. Right down the side of a muddy, we get down there, and there's the guy, and he's in bad shape. His face is all swollen. His eyes are purple. He's unconscious. The doctor looks at him and says, we got to get him out of here. So we load him on the Stokes, and then up the hill we have to go. Now, at this point, we are actually on our knees, because I would take a turn, and we lift him up, and then we go up the hill. Then we lift him up, because it was muddy. We could not get him up to the top by just picking him up and saying, hi-ho, hi-ho. It took us a long while to get up the top. Finally, we broke through at the top, and the helicopter was parked. It had landed maybe 300 or 400 yards from us. And I said, okay, this, in my mind, this is good. We can get him on. And then all of a sudden, the helicopter stopped twirling. And it stopped. And the guy, one of the Marines said, oh, crap. He said, that's not what he said, but he said, oh, crap. We're not going to be able to restart it. It doesn't have a battery in it. And I said, how do you know? He said, I'm the crew chief on that helicopter. So the captain says, we got to carry him out. So he looks at me. You're the only one that knows where we are. Where do we go? So I look around, and over here I see the Mount Santa Rosa radar station. It's about 2 miles away. He said, that's where we're going. So off we walked. He got on the radio. He said, we're coming to the radar station. Now it's getting dark, and we're walking in elephant grass, and we're being just cut up. And the doctor and the Marine Corps captain, they would not take a turn on the litter. So there was the 5 of us guys, and we would each carry, and then we'd rest while another guy took our place, and we went up. And it took us about 2 hours to get to that place because we're stumbling, we're messed up, we're dirty, we're muddy. But the United States Navy can put together an emergency medical team like that. So when we got there, these people came running out and they grabbed him, they took him away, and they told us to go into this other tent. So we went into this other tent, and then there they had a medical place set up for us. So this woman comes in, and she says, line up right here. So I lined up, and then she gets, have you ever seen those bottles with the alcohol in it and the cotton swabs? And she goes to this first Marine, and she starts dabbing on his cuts all over his arms. And this guy's a tough guy. These are not sissies in the United States Marine Corps. And he starts jumping up and down and screaming and turning around, and she says, stand still, and then she goes to the next one. Well, then she comes to me. Well, I'm not in the military. So I said, excuse me. I said, I'm going to go home. My wife, we have mercurochrome. Remember mercurochrome? It doesn't hurt when you put it on. And she said, straighten up. I said, no, I'll go home and my wife will take care of it. It's all right. She said, do you see these? She was an officer. She assumed I wasn't. I said, yeah, I see those. But I said, I'm not in the military. And when I said that, this captain, he said, what? He assumed any young white guy in the middle of the Vietnam War who was in Guam was in the military. He said, I ordered you onto the helicopter. I said, well, I'm happy to help, but I'm not going to let this woman put that stuff on me. And she said, so they backed away. Now the captain, there's a commander there. Now, when you're a commander in the Navy, that's like lieutenant colonel or full colonel. He came over and he said, look, we're sorry. We thought you were in the military. And I said, it's okay. It's no problem. He said, well, what can we do for you? And I said, look, just get me home because my motorbike is out there on the trail somewhere, and we got to get that too. And he said, okay. So I went home in one of those command cars with the flags on the thing. And the guy came in, he met my wife, and I said, you got to come in and tell my wife because she's going to want to know what was I doing out to 11 o'clock at night. I got to have legitimate excuse. So we went in there. Anyway, my wife was okay with it. And later, I got a letter of commendation from the United States Marine Corps, and I'm very proud of it.